Okay, part 3 of our Malala story. So at the end of the last bit, we were talking about whether we thought Malala's dad was right when he said a child is a child when he's a child, even if he's a prophet. So anyone can make mistakes, especially kids. All right, next part. For as long as I can remember, our house has been full of people, a never-ending stream of neighbors, relatives, and friends of my father. One of the most important parts of being a Pashtun is always opening your door to a visitor. In the back of our house, my mother and the women would gather to cook and laugh and talk about new clothes, jewelry, and other ladies in the neighborhood. My father and the men would sit in the men's guest room and drink tea and talk politics. I would sometimes wander away from the children's games, tiptoe through the crowd of women, and join the men, drinking in every word about the big world beyond our valley. After a while, I would go to the women to listen to their whispers and their laughter. My favorite part, the scarves and veils covering their heads, were gone. Their long, dark hair and pretty faces, made up with lipstick and henna, were lovely to see. Where I grew up, women followed the code of Purdah, where they are separated from men and cover themselves in public. Others cover themselves with a long, flowing black robe, and sometimes even black gloves and socks that hid every bit of skin, even their eyes. But when the women were away from men, they would show their beautiful faces, and I would see a whole new world. I always wondered how it felt to live in hiding. Even as a little girl, I told my parents that no matter what the other girls did, I would never cover my face like that. But my mother and some of our other relatives were shocked, but my father said I could do as I wished. Malala will live as free as a bird, he told everyone. I knew that I was the apple of my father's eye, a rare thing for a Pakistani girl. When a boy is born in Pakistan, it's cause for celebration. Gifts are placed in the baby's cot. The boy's name is inscribed on the family tree, but when a girl is born, no one visits the parents. My father paid no mind to these customs. I've seen my name in bright blue ink right there among the male names of our family tree. Mine was the first female name in 300 years. Sometimes, when I think about the future, I remember the kite flying contests we had as kids. The boys who wanted to win tried to cut the other kids' kite strings. I always felt a bit sad to see the pretty kites sputter to the ground. I worried that my future could be cut down, just like those kites, simply because I was a girl. As Safina and I got older, we'd be expected to cook and clean for our brothers. We couldn't be lawyers or engineers, fashion designers or artists, or most other things we dreamed of, and we wouldn't be allowed to go outside our homes without a male relative to accompany us. I often wondered how free I could ever really be. But my father was hopeful. "Look at this girl," said my father with pride when I learned to read. "She is destined for the skies." I was far luckier than most girls in one other way too. My father ran a school, the Kushal School. It was a humble place with nothing more than blackboards and chalk, and it was right next to a smelly river. But to me, it was a paradise. My father did every job in the school. He was the teacher, the principal, and the janitor. After he paid the school's bills, not much money was left for food, but the school had been my father's dream, and we were all happy to be living it. My parents tell me that when I was first learning to walk, I toddled into the empty classrooms and gave lessons in my own baby talk. As I grew, I sat in on classes. I couldn't wait to wear the uniforms I saw the big girls wearing when they arrived each day. Shalwar kameez, a long, deep blue shirt and loose white pants, and a white headscarf. When it was finally time for me to be a student, I was so excited I could hardly contain myself. You could say I grew up in a school. The school was my world, and my world was the school. Okay, that's the end of the first chapter, but I'm going to just do a little bit of the second chapter, which is called A Magic Pencil. Every spring and fall, my family visited one of my favorite places on earth, Shangla, the mountain village where my parents grew up. It was a 4-hour trip by bus along roads that followed the Swat River on one side and hugged sheer cliffs on the other. As we climbed higher and higher, my brothers pointed out the cars or buses that had fallen into the valley below. Eventually, the air turned cool and crisp, and we saw nothing but mountain after mountain. Mountain, 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 and just a sliver of sky. Though most people in the village were very poor, Our family always put on a feast when we arrived, especially when it was a holiday of small Eid, which marks the end of Ramadan, the holiest month of the year in our religion, Islam. During Ramadan, followers of Islam who are called Muslims go without food all day from sunrise to sunset to focus on prayer and to remember all that God has given us. On small Eid, our family shared bowls of chicken and rice, spinach and lamb, apples, pretty yellow cakes, and kettles of sweet milky tea. We brought boxes of sweets and other gifts we'd stacked on top of the bus. In my cousin's eye, I was a city girl. They teased me because I didn't like to go barefoot and wore clothes from the market, not homemade like theirs. If only they knew that people from real cities like Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, would have thought that I was a country girl. When we were together in the village, we all lived the country life. When the rooster crowed, we spilled out of the houses to greet the day. We ate honey from the hive and green plums sprinkled with salt. None of us had toys or books, so we played hopscotch and cricket in a gully. Life for women in the mountains was not easy. There were no proper shops, no hospitals or female doctors. Like when women in Mungora, the women of Shangla also covered their faces. They could not meet or speak to men who were not their close relatives. None of them could read, not even my own mother, who'd grown up in a village. Many girls in the village didn't go to school. People thought it was less important than it was for boys, since a girl would be married off at a young age to live with her husband's family. Why send her to school, the men often said. She doesn't need an education to run a house. And that is the moment where we're going to stop. So today at 11 o'clock, Aisha will be joining all of your English groups. Well, whoever's in the 11, she'll be joining your 11, and when it's the 11:20 or 11:15 group, I think it's 11:20, she'll be joining that as well. So all of your English lessons today, Aisha will be there, because Aisha has been to these places. She knows so much about this area, and she really, really wants to share it with you. So what I would like you to do, ready for Aisha's talk, is to come up with 2 questions, just two questions to ask Aisha. And it could be about the place, it could be about some of the social norms, the things that happen in this place that is different to how things are here. You might just want to ask her, how does it feel different to where we live? I don't know. See what you can think of. I've also attached a little video, which is a YouTube video, which shows some really beautiful scenes of around the Swat Valley, because maybe you might have a geography question about sort of what the climate's like, the temperature's like, how does it feel when you're there. So everyone needs to come up with 2 questions by the time it's your live lesson later on this morning, and then we can ask her, we can quiz her all about it, which I think will be amazing. Okay, so I will see you all in a little bit. Bye.